can tell her, you can tell her anything. She's a real good listener. You can tell her anything.
Yo, what's up? It's your girl, Father Longlegs. You know me, Daddy T. This is the podcast where I have comedian can't talk. I'm not going to redo that. This is in the spirit of honesty. Comedians will be confessing something they want to get off their chest. My guest, as you've heard her lovely laugh, is very funny. You've seen her on Dating No Filter on E! It's Cara Connors. What's up?
Hey.
Wait, do you go by Cara? I literally said one of my best friends is named Cara, and then I like
You're right.
literally second guessed myself as I said
No,
it.
you were totally right. It's Cara. Yeah, I
Even though we've done shows together, I'm always like, I wasn't paying attention.
No, and also like it's weird when you just like read a name. No, it's definitely it's like Cara. I usually say like carrot without the T, which doesn't even make sense, but it for some reason sticks in people's head.
It's such a like good like showbiz friendly name, like the phonetics of it. Cara Connors.
The alliteration.
Yeah, that's the word. That's why you're on TV and I'm not.
That's exactly why. That's actually why. I'm sure sure if you saw my test scores in high school, you would say something different.
Oh man. Well, before we get into it, I like to ask my guests for a good confession, just like an icebreaker, a humble brag, something positive to start us out on. Is there something good you want to confess?
Yes. Okay. So something good is I feel weird saying things that are good right now, but it's good to be
That's
positive.
why I asked for it, because it's so hard.
I know. Yeah, but I am excited because I'm leaving for tour, my first tour I've ever done in less than 2 weeks.
Yes.
And I'm like actually feeling excited because it's feeling very real now, but also terrifying. So
that's huge. Congrats. Yeah. And I guess by the time this comes out, it'll be right around then. So everyone should go check out your dates.
Yeah.
And all that. Oh, that's so exciting.
Yeah, I'm heading all over the place. So that's exciting to me for sure.
All right, is this like you're going with your, because I feel like there's like the early comedy career budget tour that I've done where it's like just with your friends, and then this is your first time where you're getting like the headliner, you're like as seen on, like you have so cool.
Yeah, I've never even, I would say it's a combination. It's definitely like a very budget DIY tour, but like it's me doing my hour, which I haven't gone to most of these places. That's amazing.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Well, I actually started this pod because I'm a comedian, as you know, that we have to do things like this for free to get our name out there.
That's
right. on the more admirable, not admirable, but less annoying side, I started going to therapy really late in life, and in addition to like telling jokes on stage, I realized like I love to just like get things off my chest, like talking things out, and so that's sort of what inspired this. But I always like to ask like my guests, like, do you have a confidant? Like, what's your sort of routine? Whether it's like, oh, I go to therapy, or I have a girlfriend I confide in, or if it's just like I bottled up, or whatever it is. Like, what do you do when you need to like talk something out or spill secrets or whatever?
I have a therapist. I've been in therapy since I was like a freshman in high school, just like deeply overanalyzing since, for a long time.
Okay.
So
was it your idea? Because that's pretty young to go.
No, I think I was sent in the early days, but then.
Well, no, it's definitely totally. Yeah. I feel like because a lot of people I know have went when they're younger and they have very different experiences. Because
for sure, no, I mean,
whole different thing.
It's definitely a different thing. I think like when I first went in like high school, it was just kind of like being depressed and like it was more suggested to me, but now it's definitely like a pretty firm part of my routine, like definitely every week. And I've even like branched out and now I'm like starting to do EMDR, which is insane.
I've done that.
Have you?
Yeah.
Did it help you?
It did, but it put me, how far in it are you?
Not very far. I think we've done maybe 3 times, like 3 times of the actual like eye movement.
Yeah. But
a couple before that of sort of like,
like history,
like learning about it. Yeah, exactly.
I've talked about it on this pod before, but I champion it in that like it definitely worked, but it is like such a mind fuck. And totally. I went in like for one thing, because I went in for my like a specific thing, like after I lost my brother, thinking like, oh, let me just do this memory, and then of course it brings up a lot of complex trauma. But it definitely, I was having like night terrors, and not to scare you, but it's like the first 2 weeks after, I felt like literally hallucinations all the
Well,
time.
because it's shaking up your, it is like shaking up your brain, and I'm interested, to kind of see like just from almost like a research perspective, just because I love reading about psychology and trauma and like studying it as well. So I'm interested from that side. But I mean, the way it was explained to me was like, yeah, like your body, it is going through this whole thing. And so things that you haven't thought about consciously are kind of being stirred up. But yeah, well, I mean, we'll see what happens.
Though. It is definitely it's
yeah.
like doing, it's like when you're cleaning, you have to get dirtier before you
Right.
can throw out the trash. But I feel, well, maybe I shouldn't use trash as a metaphor for our bodies, but you know what I mean.
Well, I mean, cleaning out like a wound or something, where you have to like clean it out. Yeah, it's definitely,
I know,
it's definitely intense though, for sure. And then you're also like, I'm skeptical of it, even though I know that it's proven to work, but like,
it sounds like magic, like, but it's not
happening. Yeah.
Yeah. It definitely sounds like in the vein of like hypnosis, which is similar in the way it works, but it's a lot less like spooky supernatural. I'm now like, I guess it's 2021. I started in 2019, so now it's been like 2 years, and it definitely like
isn't it 2022?
2022. Fuck. Oh my god. Wow. Yeah, you're right. Damn. So clearly it didn't work. No, I'm just kidding. No. I went back in time. No, I think that it made enough of a difference where it sounds almost weird to say this, but I feel like I'm meeting more people who are talking like openly about spirituality, which seems silly because I didn't come into it that way. But ever since I did EMDR, I feel like I'm like seeing more, like just like I don't know, like vibing with the universe, like singularity, like that kind of shit. And it's like so strange because I didn't think that would be a side effect, but it's in a good way. It's not like I'm in a cult, right? Besides comedy, but you know, we know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that one I can't get out of.
No, that's for life, baby. You don't have a choice. You were born into that. I mean, I think though that I feel that the spiritual aspect I feel more when I'm doing mushrooms, but maybe it'll all come together. Maybe the EMDR and the mushrooms, and then you know, something will just shift, and then maybe I'll start a cult. I haven't decided yet. I
would join. Sign me up. Yeah, I kind of described EMDR as like tripping without the fun. Without the fun. Because people are like, oh, it sounds cool. I'm like, it sounds like DMT. I'm like, in the sense that you have all the visions and the feelings and the scary parts, but like, you're not like high. So
right. I don't know that. I feel like that would not sell it to people.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. But I just mean like when I talk about it, people are like, well, because I've heard, sometimes people will see like everyone sees different things, but I'll see like really like fast moving images. It's almost like I'm like time traveling in my brain. So that part I feel like people are like, oh, that's like DMT. I'm like, yeah, except it's like traumatic things sometimes, and I'm crying and shaking, but sure.
Yeah. I mean, I've never done DMT. I feel like that might
I've never done DMT either, but I assume it's
more positive.
Hopefully there's a fun part of it, or otherwise I don't know why everyone's so into it. That's cool though. So it seems like you're very like what I call it, like captain your own like mental health ship, because I feel like anyone who's like seeking specific trauma therapies, that's a cool place to be. Do you feel like comedy, do you ever like, I don't know if this makes sense, but like I feel like when I started doing comedy, I hadn't started therapy, and I sort of like it combined in a way. And then now I feel like when I first started, I was doing a lot of stuff on stage that I hadn't processed. And then now I feel like it's a whole different thing where comedy is just like this work thing. It's this final thing. I like it, not in a struggle way, but I don't like necessarily put the raw stuff on stage. Do you feel like you separate your sort of like processing things with comedy? Because I know you talk a lot about stories and personal things on stage as well.
Yeah, I think that I think earlier on, like there would be subconscious things would kind of slip out that I hadn't even like realized. Like I would be talking about something, like making a joke of like, oh, people always say this or think this. And then it's like, oh, those people are you. That's what you say and think about yourself. Like I wouldn't put it together, but I definitely talk about personal things, but I tend to like kind of put it by the time it ends up in the act, it's like a little bit after. It takes me a minute, so I'm like talking about it as though it's present day, but usually it's kind of like you don't want to post like a picture of yourself like at a coffee shop and then like dox yourself, like you post that after you've already left. So it's like,
I don't know, I don't have like, I'm not famous.
I'm not
Cara,
famous.
no, I'm just kidding.
But I don't want to.
So my fans don't follow me to coffee shops, but okay.
I'm not either, but like I'm, there's
No,
like,
I know, I'm just
sometimes
kidding.
there's like random. There are still.
No,
random,
yeah.
You don't have to be famous. You
I
just
know.
have to be like a person on the internet with like any amount of people. Just like you get weird messages and stuff. So
that is true.
So it's kind of like that. Like I won't talk about. I don't usually talk about things that are happening in that exact present moment because like it takes me a long time sometimes to like absorb how I feel about something for real.
I think that's healthy though, because that's like
yeah.
you can actually write a thing and it's funny and it can relate to the audience in a way where you've processed it.
Instead of just like venting on stage, like I don't want to necessarily vent to the audience. I more want to, I'm like, I've already figured it out and now I'm like bringing you guys into it versus like, I'm going to use this to like yell at a bunch of people who are just like trying to have a beer.
Oh my gosh. So for some reason, when you said the coffee shop, I don't know why this is the example I thought of when you said the coffee shop thing, but I feel like, I don't really do this now, really, but like definitely in my thirst trappy years, and I'm sure they'll come back again. I don't, hey, if they're back, please keep liking the post. So I'm not denouncing.
Don't worry about what's going on for me. Just support me. If you support me, he'll just support me.
Yeah. But in my like more like 20s thirst trappy years, I feel like I definitely was more like sending nudes and stuff, and I don't know why this was the example I thought of, but something about like. I don't repeat nudes. Like no shame to people who do, but like I'm like if I'm sending one, it's to that person.
Gotcha.
But years later, I've had the thing where I'm like it feels like a different person, and I'll go back and be like, oh, I can repost like a more PG-13 thirst trap if it was sent in a private text when it's years later. And I don't know why the coffee thing made me think of that. Like if. Posting it in the moment, needing validation feels like too much. Like you see me, I'm naked. Versus like this was from like 6 years ago. Hey, check out how my butt looked 6 years ago.
I mean, to me, that just sounds like somebody who's taking their power back. I don't know. I think it all sounds good. I think you can use your pictures for whatever you want. I definitely repeat nudes. But maybe I am like a little paranoid with this stuff, but I also like used to, or it's not like I'm making it sound like, so when I'm constantly sending thousands of nudes each day, it's like making it sound like so over the top. But like, even if I would send one, like I will sometimes like take like a screenshot of it and send the screenshot so that people can't like like click and get details. And I'm like, what do I think people,
they
always
can't
like
find out the coffee
about,
shop where you're taking the nudes at. So
that's exactly right. Yeah. But I think you could, if it's your body, do with it whatever you want. Make a calendar of it, like do whatever you want with your pictures.
Maybe I will. I feel like as I'm getting older and media is becoming like one day anything you put into any digital thing is just going to be accessible. I'm like, normalize saving your nudes to like when you're 50 or whatever, like sell them when you're 50, whatever.
For sure. Yeah. That is like the most empowering thing that like people do when they're like owning it. And that is like one thing that I like, that it seems like a sign of progress of a lot more people like owning it. And like, we've all been like conditioned to like feel shame. Like, oh my God, I don't want that. What if this leaked or something? It's like, why would you feel bad if you sent you're a consenting adult, you sent a private photo. If a person ever leaked that, they are the one who should feel ashamed because they're the one that's like crossing a boundary. You didn't do any, like you would be, the victim.
That's true. Although this makes me feel like more selfish because the reason I would be embarrassed isn't even because I'm like, I guess I wouldn't want everyone I know, especially like family members, to see my nudes.
Right.
But it's less like, oh no, shame. It's more like a middle school reason of being like, oh, you took a nude to send someone and they didn't like you. Ew. Like that's more the embarrassment of it. So that's why I'm like, oh, you can have my secondhand nudes. They were accepted. Don't worry. They were enjoyed. Okay. I'm like, they were enjoyed. Okay. There's this initial fear of like, what if I don't like it? And then I don't want to have been taking it for something.
Right.
So stupid. Who cares?
Yeah. It just like it makes sense. Like it all just gets twisted in everybody's brains in a different way. So makes sense.
Okay, that went off the rails, but let's take a quick break. When we get back, I'll get your confession. All right, Cara, the time has come. Is there anything you would like to tell me?
Okay, I gave this a lot of thought, and obviously there's a lot of things that I can confess, but I was trying to think of something truly vulnerable that I haven't really shared with anyone that could somehow be tied to something in the comedy world, and here's what I've come up with.
Ooh, wow.
And I'll explain the tie back if it's not apparent, but my confession is that I used to be a thumbsucker beyond the normal range of when.
Okay,
most
I mean, I don't know if you could tell by my gasp, but I was a thumbsucker.
Yes.
I don't know how
So has this
old
been covered?
No.
Okay, good.
We have not talked. We've talked about blankets, which I also had a security blanket.
Same.
Yes, Elise Morales did it, and she still like has it. Pretty much.
I definitely still not the baby blanket, but I definitely like have like a blanket that I'm like, that's not really like for
That's
you.
not it. It's a substitute. Oh yeah. Okay. Oh my God.
Like what guests can like put on themselves if they're on the couch.
That's so funny. No, I have scraps that are my baby blanket, but I've already moved it into a memory box.
Nice.
Every once in a while it comes out when I'm having a panic attack, but it's a little more, it's less sleeping with it and more holding it and longing for a different time.
Right.
No, the thumbsucker thing, I remember, I don't know how old, probably till like kindergarten. Were you past that?
Oh yeah.
Okay, I want to hear.
I think I was, well, I know when it stopped because I think it must have been until at least like 4th grade. I'm going to say.
Oh, wow.
I was, like,
okay.
9.
So sleepover age and.
Right. But like hiding it at a sleepover.
Okay.
You know,
so that,
like, it wasn't like it wasn't like, so it was just like when I was sleeping and just kind of like tucked into myself. But
Aww.
Like, yeah. And even still, I'm like, I feel like it's still kind of smooth. Like smoother on that side. I'm like, when I was little, I would always look and I'm like, this thumb is so much like skinnier. Like I really thought that I like.
You just like sucked off the skin.
Sucked it off or something, which doesn't even make sense. But
were you an anxious baby? Like where did that come from?
It has to be that. I mean, like I've definitely been biting my nails as long as I can remember. And like that, I mean, that's the only thing that I can like conclude it had to have, and that's like what it would have been for most people. But yeah, it must have just been like anxious. It was definitely like my self-soothing. I don't know that I had a lot of other tools that like I was aware of or that were available to me. So I think I was like, suck the thumb, had the blankie, and that was like, okay, I'm good.
Well, it is. Yeah, it's definitely not uncommon to like for babies to have security things like that. It's funny because I'm like, how do they usually grow out of it? I think they just there's a natural fall off,
right?
But not always. Was there a moment you felt like you wanted to stop? Kind of like, you were embarrassed, but you couldn't.
Yeah, I mean, I think by the time when I was like in elementary school, like the first couple of years of elementary school, because it's like I had an understanding that it was like embarrassing or babyish or something, but like. I think it was just like, I still think I have like an oral fixation. Like, I think I also just like was attached to the habit of it, but it was like, it became bothersome to my parents because it started messing up my teeth. And I think their thing was like, until your permanent teeth come in, we don't really care. Like, cause of your baby teeth, like whatever. But then like my permanent teeth came in and it was like starting to like, kind of fuck that up. And so then this is actually crazy. I should look this person up because they should be like put on some kind of like dentist list. But what the thing that got me to finally stop was my parents took me to this dentist or orthodontist who had invented something to like get kids to not suck their thumb anymore. And basically it was this like
the mass from
retainer. It was like this crazy, like, it wasn't even crazy. It was just like cemented to my 2 top back molars. And then it was like this little wire, like kind of retainer thing that went, and it was like in the top of my roof of my mouth. And I just physically couldn't do it anymore.
No.
So they just like had it installed, immediately stopped sucking my thumb. And then, but then it had to be like removed because I got a sour punch straw stuck in it and started choking, and then they like couldn't get it out.
Wow, this is so much information. Amazing. I'm sorry. I love sour punch straws.
Me too. I know. But I still like, and I honestly have like kind of a dodgy memory in a lot of ways, but I remember like this sour punch straw, like eating it. And then I just like started choking. And I remember my mom was like in the bathroom, like knocking on the door, and I'm like pointing, and she had to like try to like put her whole hand in my mouth to like, and then they took me to the dentist. They're like, okay, we have to take it out. Cause like she's gonna choke on sour
This
punch
dentist just
straws.
cementing children's mouths closed.
Isn't that like, I've never heard of that.
That's
and I tried
wild.
to Google it too. I'm like, I think he was a mad scientist.
That's gotta be worse for your teeth than just sucking your thumb to like cement. That's like the wild thing is like, I understand where parents come from. Like I'm literally listening to like a book my psychiatrist recommended, and they're talking about like how parents need to stop seeing their kids as like reflections of themselves. But even as I hear that, I'm like, I get it. Like I look at my dog and I'm like, when he's well behaved, I'm proud. But like the idea of like seeing your child as like a car, which I know is not really what they mean, but there's that sense, right? Like the new teeth are coming in, like the seats are leather, like now you must stop. Like at no point was it
so weird.
Like, hey, maybe there's a reason.
Something like bothering
emotionally.
You. No, exactly. It was just like, okay, well, like this is starting to like, this might be braces or something in the future. But I mean, I hate to say it, but I never had to get braces and my teeth are straight. So maybe
your teeth are great.
But
maybe
like,
the thumb is the trick.
I don't know.
So you never got caught at like sleepovers or people, kids didn't make fun of you or anything? I remember,
yeah, not that I can really recall. Like, I don't even remember it being a big deal. It's like notable to me when I think about it now as an adult looking back, but it wasn't like this huge. It wasn't like, oh my God, like we have to, until weird dentist, but
maybe this will come up in EMDR. No. Well, that is the thing that there's certain things. I remember like the age where there's like things that you might remember being embarrassed, babyish or whatever, but you really like leave behind once you are in high school and college or whatever. Right. And then now is the time where, especially in pandemic, when we reflect, we're like, oh, there was that, like, oh yeah, why did I do that thing? Or why did I think this?
Or
was that very recent?
Somebody. Yeah.
Or that you like had that memory that like, oh, this was a big part of my life at that time. Like,
I don't know. I mean, I don't think I ever forgot it. I don't even remember when maybe it's the comedy thing. I think because I was reading Sarah Silverman's book, The Bedwetter, and it kind of reminded me of that a little bit of like, because she talked about kind of the shame and like, if you're a bedwetter, the terror of going to like overnight sleepaway camps and like how, so it's similar in terms of, it's like you're a little kid. It a lot of times is tied to like emotional or anxiety. It's not something you can necessarily like control.
Right.
And the tie of like bedtime of like, that's when it's going to come up. And so that's when,
yeah. That brings up more anxiety.
Right.
My mom used to put a sock on my hand. And I think that's how eventually it stopped. But I remember there were times when I'd like wake up because I felt cotton in my mouth.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. I think we did the nasty nail polishes a few times. And like, even that, I've tried that as an adult to quit biting my nails. And I feel like my hands were just, when I was a kid, like covered in like hot pepper nail polish on all my fingers, like stop putting your hands in your mouth pretty much. But I just would like, that was no chance. I was like, great, guess I'll just have to keep going until this comes off. Like,
I feel like as an adult, there's I mean, I can get why parents try to like help their kids who are growing, but as an adult, I'm like, if you have bad habits and they're not interfering with your relationships or work, do them. I mean, honestly.
I mean, that's kind of my approach. Especially with kid stuff, it does seem like if you put a big spotlight on it and like attach shame to it or attach, like, then it often will stick around longer versus it's just like, it's a thing, like it's it's not hurting anybody, like,
well, there's also hard. Like built-in consequences that adults can deal with. Life is hard because like if you were to bite your nails so much as an adult that you ruined your nails and then you had to like deal with it or pay money to fix it, like that would probably be enough for an adult to stop. And besides that, if it's not ruining anything, there's probably no reason.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't know any human that doesn't have a couple of vices because like, and I don't mean that as an excuse of like, oh, do whatever the fuck you want, like but like, of course, examine yourself. But I don't know any adults who don't have a few vices because like, we are trying to self-soothe. We are all like stressed and traumatized and like just doing our best, and there's so many like circumstances happening, so like that's why people smoke cigarettes or eat too much candy or do this or drink or whatever. So it's like, I think if it gets to the point where it's not really hurting you or it's like, okay, like let them just she has a cigarette once a week when it's like, okay, you know,
or even I'm not encouraging doing addicting things that will hurt you, but I'm just saying adults have more capacity to be conscious and learn from them.
For sure.
Like to have a bad habit for 2 weeks and then really go like, oh, this is why I shouldn't do it. Like we've all had those. Well, I don't know if I've definitely had, you know, shut in myself when I'm like mad about an ex and then been like, well, nobody's gonna like drag me to school. So it's time for me to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it is interesting to think about like habits like sucking your thumb because this was like, you saying this, okay, I'm going to share this. This is very vulnerable as well, but in the spirit of this, early pandemic, I was having a lot of panic attacks, and I've talked about that part on the pod before. I don't think I've shared this part though. When I was like having so much trouble, I was like willing to try anything that worked. I was literally like writing my psychiatrist, like asking if she knew any institutions I could check into, and she was like, don't do that. But I had thought about, I was like, well, I used to suck my thumb and I tried it and it didn't work.
No.
Like I was like, maybe this is all I need. And then it was like not soothing at all. And it just felt weird.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things. I was like, maybe this will bring me back.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think that would be worth a try, but it's probably just because it's like, it hasn't been soothing for a while. But also like, sucking your thumb is like, it's soothing because it's like you trained your brain for that to be something that helped you, right? So maybe you could train it back.
I don't know if I should do that, but it's funny like that you bring it up because I'm like, yeah, that's interesting. Could you train your brain to, like doing something else too? And probably the answer is yes. As an adult, it's easier, but as a child, like there probably was a moment where the more you stop doing it, the more it was like the only thing that would soothe you. Yeah, for sure. And I don't even think I was like, stop doing that. I think I was more like, hide it. Don't
like,
get caught.
You know, like if it was in a place where it was like embarrassing, like don't show people that. But I was like very content, you know. I was like, I'm just doing my thing. Like, leave me alone.
I don't know. It's like kind of cute. I mean, I don't know. I guess maybe because I have personal experience with it, I'm like, it's fine. Like, I know we all grew out of it. It's okay. Yeah.
And I think that like we would have, like, I think I would have, like, I don't think it would have been, you know, something that would have been going on until I went to college anyway. Like, but it's good that it didn't ever like accumulate into an embarrassing story or anything. Right. Yeah. The only time I can remember being like, I wasn't embarrassed, but I have a twin, and she, when we had nap time at like kindergarten or something, she woke up in the middle and then later told my mom that she saw me sucking my thumb and took it out for me because when we were napping. And I was kind of embarrassed about it though, because I was like, she took it out for you though. That's sweet. She's like, let me help.
I think it came from more like like we've heard my mom say don't do that, and she's like, and she didn't do it and I did, and so she's kind of like, Teresa was doing this, so I helped. And I'm like, yeah, let me live. What if I wanted to get away with it at school?
That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm sorry, is your porch clean? Mind your own business. Like, that's okay. Like, I should have said that to my dad. Like, okay, let's talk about your pack-a-day habit. Like, why don't we process that? Like, why don't we throw away all your cigarettes? I'll get this retainer installed in my mouth and let's go from there. If apparently nobody's allowed to do anything.
Oh my gosh. Did you have nightmares as a kid, or like you just like were you like scared at night? Specifically, was it like bedtime that was scary, or you just like
I wasn't scared. No, I think it was just like a general, like I think it was just like a soothing thing. I don't really remember having many nightmares. I mean, I had nightmares, but it wasn't like a recurrent issue or anything like that.
Were you an only child, or did you have siblings?
No, I have 3 older brothers.
Oh, okay. So you're the youngest.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, because I thought maybe like, well, I don't know. I guess 3. Is there a big age difference? Like, were you guys close?
Yeah, pretty big age difference. Like, I'm the youngest, and they were like much older. Gotcha. I don't think any of them were sucking their thumb. But I'm not. I honestly think it was just like, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure I could like dig around and try to figure out like more of the things, but I think it was just like a convenient, thing. No,
normalize
really
having weird habits that we got away with and now we're honest about. It's totally fine.
Yeah.
I will ask you though how it has to relate to comedy, because you teased that earlier.
Oh no, my connection to comedy was just the Sarah Silver, like was just that was like the bedwetting. I know, that's why I was like, it's not really a connection. It's really a connection in my brain of how I thought about it was from reading that book. Yeah.
That is a connection though, because there's so many things. I think this about like even like I came out pretty late in life, and a lot of my girlfriends who are like bi now also came out late in life, but we had so many similar experiences in our quote unquote straight years.
Yeah.
That it's like interesting that you bring up Sarah Silverman, because with comedy too, I find there's like specific stories that Jews tend to be more common with comedians, and not because we all like grew up in the same area or anything.
Right.
Like there's just like maybe like a personality type that draws you to trying to ask the same questions and then answer it through performing or whatever.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, there's definitely like a higher contingency of like people with ADHD and like very sensitive, and like I feel like there's a lot of people that are perfectionists but also like maybe have like are dyslexic as well. Like there's like these weird like pairings of like traits that I feel are like a higher, it's definitely, I mean, it's a self-selecting group. So
true, yeah, because it's like you might see someone who is like not idol, like what was that word? Represents how you feel, and then the parts that show are like, oh, they're talking about anxiety, but the parts that don't show is they're neurodivergent or whatever. Yeah, and who knows?
Exactly. Yeah. But the comedy, I mean, the comedy aspect of it is, I mean, it's just, I haven't talked about it on stage. Maybe I should be like, where my thumbsuckers at?
Thumbsuckers. I don't know. Yeah, when you said thumbs, like even though I don't talk about it, it's like it's definitely embedded in your brain of like this young enough time like that. I also was a bedwetter, like that, like the blanket, the bedwetter, all of that, you know. So it's like you say that, I'm like immediately remember that I relate to that. When did you start doing comedy?
I started doing comedy maybe 6.5 years ago.
Okay, so you're like you're an adult. Like I guess my roundabout question is like, did comedy sort of make you less anxious too? Well, I was also very an anxious, neurotic person, and then when I started doing comedy, that like shifted a lot of how I interact socially. I think it made me less anxious, but it's also maybe more annoying in some ways too.
It's definitely made me more annoying. That is undeniable. I didn't used to like DM my friends like, can you please repost this story of this character that I did? It would mean a lot to me. So I'm definitely a lot more annoying. There's no
No, I won't name names, but I heard about from another comic, someone did this to her, but she called her to ask her why her tweet wasn't liked. This was years ago, but I
have friends that do that.
Don't worry, you're not. You really?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I have friends who are like, why haven't you liked that yet?
Oh my gosh.
Everyone is not well. So. I don't know that my anxiety, I haven't ever thought about the correlation between doing comedy and any anxiety I'm feeling. I mean, I think that it has like performing and being on stage is a space where I think I am often my more authentic, like vulnerable self, even if it's kind of like a blown up character. I on stages where I kind of like embrace a lot of those like soft parts or flaws or different things. And so there is like a dedicated arena where that's happening, because I don't really do that necessarily in my day-to-day life. Yeah,
that's interesting, like the idea of creating this space, because I mean, now that you're, you know, famous, big shot, performing, headlining,
getting doxxed constantly,
getting doxxed in coffee shops, just flagrantly sending nudes. Well, I wonder, because this is something I actually just thought about this weekend. I was like talking to my boyfriend's friends, and they were like, they only know me as a comedian because when I met him, I was already doing comedy. But I always thought of myself as like in the same way, like I found my true self on stage, and that's where I feel more comfortable. And I used to be more like off stage with a mask. But then they were asking like, oh, do you feel like you have to like take off the comedy mask? And I was like, I never even thought about that, because I always thought that was me. But at some point you do merge, like when you're more public, you do have to kind of curate that quote unquote true self. And it's like the mask changes almost, or you merge them. And it's like strange when it used to be vulnerable on stage, and now I'm like on stage, sometimes I feel like I have the power to like, I'm like in charge of the audience versus like, please like me. And it's like a weird switch.
But I think that for me, I'm sure that shifts from show to show sometimes though. Cause I mean, I have experiences on stage where I definitely do not feel powerful, but I definitely always feel vulnerable.
Yeah.
Like that piece never really does go away, you know, like even if I'm doing like, oh, I'm doing material I know that works and I'm totally comfortable and I'm in a space where I know it's like I still always feel like very vulnerable for sure.
But even when you're performing for audiences that like know you and came to see you, like it's not like I can just be me because that's what they want. You still feel that feeling of like, I need to show them who I am.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I think like the goal is to just feel fully comfortable and like, but I don't think I often feel like when I'm doing a show, I don't often feel like, oh yeah, everybody is like here to see me. And I definitely feel still like I've got something to prove and I'm not, I don't think I'm like at that stage where I feel so comfortable, like just 100% that everyone is gonna like love what I'm doing. I don't feel like that.
It's funny because like out of like I've had, you know, guests on the show that I know really well and ones that I like admire like you that we haven't hung out as much, but the times we have, I always feel like your energy is always so like you have the energy of like I'm just really like energetic and down and like super like I don't know, like something is very magnetic and also it's funny that you say you got so vulnerable because when I like the confidence, I guess is what I'm saying. Like when I first met you, I think it was like after a breakup or something. And there was just like so much confidence that I was like, damn. So I'm sure all of that is us coping and putting on fronts, but it definitely reads as like, oh, you're in control of the room. Yeah. And you always know what's going on.
Yeah, I definitely do try to appear that way when, you know, like as like, and I do feel like I don't feel, I do feel confident, like in my ability, like I feel in control of like what I'm doing and of the room. But like, I mean, even if it's going well and I'm being accepted, like I'm very in touch with that like sensitivity and like feeling that like vulnerability. And like, I'm choosing to do this. I'm choosing to like put myself on stage. So like, even if I am and feel confident, I still under that. And like, yeah, you feel.
Wait, are you a water sign? I feel like
I'm not actually. I'm a Taurus.
Oh, okay. Oh, whoa, okay.
But I have some water. I'm like a Pisces, Venus, and Mars.
Wow.
If that means anything to you.
Yes. I probably talk about astrology too. I somehow find every chance I can to talk about astrology, even though this is not an astrology podcast.
What are you?
I am Scorpio, and then I'm Cancer, rising Virgo moon. So I've got some Earth as well.
Nice.
Yeah. We just lost.
Yeah, we just like lose it.
Oh man. Okay, I have a final question, and then I want to play a game. Unless there's more about thumbsucking, because I just. No, I didn't mean that. Wow.
No, I'm really. I don't know if there's any other thumbsucking, but
I just didn't mean to cut you off. Yeah.
No, you're fine.
But it tying back to comedy, it kind of made me think of this question. But like these like rituals that we do, like how it used to just be like you know, not or subconscious or unconscious, but as you get older and you're like doing comedy or sports or whatever it is, people in theater, there's like superstitions and things that you always do before shows. So I'm wondering if you like have taken that into comedy. Like, do you have certain like routines or things where you're like, I always do this before shows, or I can't, I don't know, wear this on stage or whatever.
Yeah, I'm definitely, I don't know that it's superstitious, but I'm definitely pretty like, I can predict it a little bit better now, but I always like before I go on stage, I'm always like pretty nervous, pretty quiet. I don't like to like really talk before. And then it's like, I hate it because I'm excited and I like want to see comedians and like chat and people are all like chatty and like happy and catching up. But like until I do my set, I'm like not really friendly because I'm just like very nervous and focused. So I kind of tend to like, I try to either isolate and I always am like just rewriting it out because that like gets it into my brain. So I'm usually like scribbling and like rewriting out my set and then like kind of being antisocial. But then I'm like, I hope that they'll still want to talk to me after when I like feel better, but I don't know how to like.
So what you're saying is you have zero anxiety. Absolutely.
Yeah. But that's the main ritual, like isolating, being an antisocial weirdo in the corner and writing out my set. And then after, I always feel like a lot of relief, and then I usually smoke a joint. That's my ritual.
Nice. I mean, that feels like that's pretty relatable. That's funny you said that thing about talking, and because I literally was like, I feel that way sometimes. And I remember last time we ran each other's show, I also like tried to order food, and then they like kept bringing me more like plates, and that gave me so much anxiety.
Yeah.
So I was like, I just want to make sure, and I was like trying to get a tape, and then I'm like, I also want to be chill. It's like they keep being like, this is easy. It's a Halloween show. So I'm like, I'm not thinking about this. But I was like, fuck this shit.
I know. It's so it's just like, I think, I don't want like unpredictable things happening. And I don't know, I am so sensitive. So like if someone says something to me before, like, I'm like, okay, I just can't. So, but I've always been like that. Even like when there would be tests and stuff, like in college, even I remember like, I would stand in the hall until like the teacher came in with the test, because I didn't like being in the room with I could just feel their anxious energy. And like some people are like laughing, chatting, don't give a shit. That's how they're coping. And then other people are like really intense. And I just like couldn't, the only way I could like protect myself is like be in the hall and just like not absorb their.
Damn. So you really like have that empath energy, but it's almost like then in some way it's not really, not that it would be your fault, but in some way it's like you're so open that other people aren't necessarily controlling their energy enough, and that's why you're like, oh my, it's like Superman with the like voices. You're like, it's too much. Yeah,
it's just like too much to be. I don't know. I like physically just feel I have a hard time like blocking it. So like I don't like to, if someone's like really buzzing and tense, I'm like, ugh, like I can't like handle it. Like it's probably like I'm just like, no, I can't. So rather than like tell someone like, you're really buzzing and intense, stop being like that, I'm like, I'll just go stand in the hallway.
Damn.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad we talked about this. I feel like I learned a lot about you, and you learned a lot about me. Like, I don't know why I always end up confessing more things when I ask people here to confess things. But
that's empathetic, you know.
It is. Or is it narcissistic? I don't know.
No, it's not, because you're like trying to like, it's like, hey, like I see you're putting yourself out there, like you're not alone. Like that's how I perceive it, at least.
Yeah, if anyone's listening and you're a thumbsucker, you were or you still are, or you're yelling at your kid for being one, stop it. Stop yelling at your kid. It's okay. They'll be fine.
Okay. Exactly.
If you yell too much, they'll become comedians, and you know. I don't want any more competition. I don't want any young people joining comedy.
Exactly. No more.
We are the youngest people left. Okay.
That's right.
You're like much younger than me. Okay.
We're it. The cutoff. We got in.
The cutoff.
We got in.
We're the thumbsuckers of comedy.
Right.
All right. This game is sort of like loosely inspired. I sort of loosely inspired by guests, but since you guest on the show are on a show called Dating No Filter, Audie, which is talking about dating and like whatever. This show. Oh my god, sorry. Wow, I have the giggles. This game is basically what's worse, sending or receiving this text. So it's like I pick some texts from online forums and blogs.
Cool. Okay.
And then you get it. You have to just kind of say like, would you rather have to send it or receive it? We'll do this example one isn't a real text, but for example, just so we get it, it's what's worse, accidentally sending a flirty text to your mom or your mom accidentally sending you a flirty text.
Receiving that is worse.
Yeah, that's I
in
think.
That scenario,
although, well, yes, okay, that's what my sister said, and I don't know. Now that you also agree, I'm like maybe I agree, but
like I think my flirting, the way that I flirt, I could like spin it in a lot of different ways. It's like not flirting, like I don't want to see. I don't want to see what weird ass like perfectly formatted text. Like a paragraph break between the name. It's like name, comma, paragraph break, and then some nasty shit. I don't want to see that. No.
Okay, so these ones are all like actual texts. So this one's one from BuzzFeed. This is the text. I'm thinking about proposing to her, but before I do, real quick, you wouldn't try working things out with me again. I don't want to propose if there might still be a chance with you for real. So it's just a text from an ex. Would you rather?
I would never send that. So, like, what a horror show.
Fair enough. I know.
you're about to propose to someone, just checking you're not still interested. I would never want to receive that.
It's also not good either way, because it's like you could just check if they're interested. It's almost like you think the proposal is going to get them back. And then that's bad. Like either way, that's bad.
All of it's bad. Like, what are you checking? Why don't you check yourself out of your current relationship? You clearly don't want to be in.
Yep.
What are you doing? Ew.
Okay, here's one. Here's another. It's a response to an ex. How am I supposed to forget you when every time I go outside I see things that remind me of you, like garbage bins and dog shit?
I wouldn't feel bad sending that at all. That sounds deserved. And I don't know that I would mind receiving that. I don't know. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, I feel like I would receive it more than I don't want to. I don't know. I always think it's like that's where comedy is fun for me to like get into, like more creative revenge like text or like angry punchlines. But I don't know. Maybe I need to work on the bitch in me, but I have a hard time actually saying something because I'm like I might actually hurt someone's feelings.
Right.
Like I think I would do it too well. Sometimes I'm like I would roast you and you would cry, and then
that's how I feel too. I'm like I won't do roast shows. I'm like I could destroy someone if I like wanted to like tap into that part of myself. I'm like, no.
I know it's funny that so many of those roast shows are like just kind of like cis straight white guys, because it's like, oh, ask someone who's actually been bullied. Like ask an intuitive empath, right, thumbsucker, you know, like we have shit to say.
Yeah, and I have shit to say about them. Maybe I should go on a roast show. My rule being I would only roast a guy. That would be it.
Okay, this one made me cringe, so I don't know. Would you rather receive or send, if you had to, send the text? What are we? I don't understand our relationships. Sometimes we're friends, sometimes we're more than friends, and sometimes I'm just a stranger to you. 1 minute you're talking to me as if I'm something special, and the next minute, I can barely get through this. Next minute you're talking to me as if I mean nothing to you. One day you pay so much attention to me, and then the next day you completely ignore me. Don't fuck with my feelings because you're unsure about yours. Grow up and talk to me when you're done treating girls like you own them. Okay, maybe it's not that I shouldn't be laughing because it's like very serious, but like I can't with these long text messages.
That's too much. There's no scenario in which I would want to receive that message. That would be like absolutely way too much, because then I would feel like I have to respond to like all the different points and all the different things. So I would definitely rather be the person who send that. I think I would only send a message like, I mean, I'm sure I have sent a message like that. I would only do it if I was like, I'm sending this because I'm putting this out in the universe and I don't care. I don't care if you respond or not.
Full send, yeah.
Then I could do it, but receiving that would be a nightmare.
I probably have
sent my phone away.
I've sent messages like that, and maybe that's why it makes me cringe. So I guess I wouldn't want to do it again, but I guess I wouldn't take it back either. Okay.
Never say never, you know.
Yeah, maybe in my future thirst trap when it comes back around, I'll be sending these messages.
Sending that, yeah, exactly.
Okay, here's the final one. Okay. Hey, so this isn't the message I guess you want to be getting, but my ex contacted me again on the weekend and came to my work today, and have decided instead of breaking up, we are going to give each other a second chance and start to date again. I really don't know what else to say. There's, okay, so just a little side note. This was sent to a group chat of multiple suitors.
Oh no.
So would you rather be in the chat of suitors, find out, or would you rather send it to the suitors?
No, I'll be in the group chat for that. That's fine. Paste, remove myself from the group. That's okay, dude. I'm very much like, you are free to go. I'm like not a possessive person. Like if you want to be with somebody else, like good, go be with someone that makes you happy. That you're doing me a favor. So I'd be like, amazing. Wow. Thank you for your radical honesty. I'm actually shocked that you would be so explicit with what actually happened.
True. Maybe I'd become friends with the others on the chat. Be like, hey, so what are you guys doing this Friday? It just opened up.
Oh my God, exactly.
The reply was like, doing it via group message is efficient. Okay. Like it was like, all right.
Yeah, no, you can't do that. I would never you can't send that to a group of people like that. Like just, you can't even just press copy paste and send it out
right?
Separate messages. That's cold.
It's like, even if you weren't getting back with your ex, it sounded like there's like a line of people to get through.
Yeah, damn.
Oh man. Okay. that's it for the game, and that's the pod. Thanks so much for coming on the show. Cara, where can people follow you and find out about your tour dates?
You could go to caraconnors.com/tickets for tour dates, and I'm mostly active on Instagram, Cara Cons Comedy. That's where I like to hang out.
Nice. Oh, that was so sweet the way you said that. You can follow this podcast at Tell Me Anything Pod, and you can follow me at Teresa Lee Bott on Instagram. Thank you. Thank you for listening to You Can Tell Me Anything. You Can Tell Me Anything is a comedic podcast created and produced by Teresa Lee on the Hoo Ha Ha Podcast Network. The Hoo Ha Ha team is Ashley McAtee, Audrey Povar, Maggie Reed-Austin, Cardi Assad, and Stephanie Binot. The theme song for this podcast was created by Cody Johnston. The outro music was written by Shipwrecked Sailor. And the Hoo Ha Ha app can be found in the Apple Store to stream your favorite comedy series and laugh out loud podcasts by the funniest women in comedy. To contact this podcast specifically, you can email tellmeanythingpod@gmail.com and follow us on Instagram at tellmeanythingpod. Thank you.